There's a new Matrix movie coming out, and I'm moderately excited about it. I mean, after the sequels, there's not much to be excited about, really. I was worried about Matrix 4 being like Indiana Jones 4, where they would just try to copy the old movies in a really pathetic and desperate attempt to recapture the past. But the trailer for Matrix 4 does look like they're putting forth their own vision into its own movie with its own identity. So that does give me hope. And so I have a friend that I spend a lot of time with. Her name is Jackie. Some of you know her from my streams. And I show her a lot of old movies that she hasn't seen. And I showed her The Matrix like half a year ago. She really liked it. I mean, come on, The Matrix is a great movie. But we did not watch the sequels because they are not good. And now that the trailer for Matrix 4 is out, I was like, okay, we're going to have to sit down. We're going to have to watch these sequels. We watched them. She did not like them. She fell asleep, I think, 3 times. Yeah, so... But I was thinking about something when I was watching them. I started taking some notes. And I wanted to bring up... Well, I mean, I could talk forever about all the things wrong in the Matrix sequels. But I just wanted to focus on one aspect, and that's the fashion. There's, in the first movie, the crew that's on the Nebuchadnezzar, with Morpheus and Trinity and, what's his name, Mouse, and Tank, Dozer, Cypher, right? And then Neo. When they go into the Matrix, they all kind of have a similar fashion sense. And there's a scene in the Matrix where Morpheus tells Neo that, what does he say? He says that the way you appear in the Matrix is like your mental projection of your digital self, or something like that. Basically, however you see yourself in your mind, that's how you appear in the Matrix. So Neo sees himself that way, and so he appears that way. He appears with the trench coat and the black shirt and stuff like that, and Trinity sees herself with kind of like the leather tank top and the tight pants and all this. Like, how you see yourself is how you appear, which is a cool concept. I like that a lot. And everyone in that crew all kind of has a similar fashion sense. Everyone appears like in a goth, dark, punk sort of fashion. And I always assumed that was because they had a bond as a team. You know, like when you go out with your friends that you've been friends with for 10 to 15 years, a lot of you tend to dress similarly. Like, I wear a lot of black clothes, and so a lot of people I hang out with are also in black clothes and rock t-shirts and that kind of stuff. Not all of them, of course, but a good amount of them. And so my assumption was that this crew has known each other for a long time. They have a deep personal bond, and they probably have a lot of similar interests and feelings, and so they all have a similar fashion sense when they appear in the Matrix because of that connection they have. And that makes sense. But when you get to the Matrix Reloaded, and you have all these different ships and crews from Zion, and when they have these meetings where they all appear in the Matrix to get together and talk, everyone dresses in a dark, punk, goth kind of way with trench coats and sunglasses. And I find it really hard to believe that out of all these different ships and crews and personalities, there's not a single person who's in Matrix image reflects their personality, making them look in a way where like they're in, I don't know, like shorts and a football jersey, or khaki pants, or blue jeans and a plaid shirt. Like, nobody looks different than the goth fashion style of the first Matrix movie. I found that really, really off-putting and a really immersion-breaking as well. I guess you could say that maybe it would look silly, but they could have written it in the way to make something like that work, because that would be much more believable in the world of the Matrix. And the fact that they made everyone look like that, I think it's really representative of the problems the Matrix sequels have overall, where they were way too focused on the superficial aspects, like the style, the fashion, the effects of the first movies, and maybe like mythology stuff, without really focusing on the deep character parts of the story, which is what made the first movie work in the first place. Like, the first movie is great as a sci-fi movie. All the robots and the technology and the kung fu and all that stuff is great in the genre. But what makes it so good is the character journey of Neo, and the character journey of Smith and Morpheus and Trinity. The things they learn, the things they sacrifice. And in the sequels, it just feels like nobody really learns or sacrifices anything, at least not to a point where it feels like it really has a deep impact on the story. It's kind of like I draw a lot of comparisons to RoboCop, but it's very similar to RoboCop, where RoboCop is a famous movie in the sci-fi action genre because of the aspects that it has that pertain to that genre. But what makes it so good and so memorable is the character story of Alex Murphy, of RoboCop. It's a story that could be told outside the genre. The story of a man who loses his identity, who loses his life, and has to fight to reclaim his humanity. You could tell that same kind of story in the setting of RoboCop, or in the setting of a monster movie, or in the setting of a romantic comedy, or in a period piece. It's a timeless kind of story that is put into a sci-fi genre setting. And The Matrix loses that. The Matrix dives 100% into its genre while leaving the universal appeal of the first movie through its character story. And I think the fashion aspect of it, of everyone in the movie appearing the same way in The Matrix, was a big signal that they were going to lose that. You could even see it. I didn't notice it then, but looking back now, before the movie came out, there were a lot of promotional posters that were teasing the movie, and there were individual posters of each character in the movie. Like, there was a Neo poster, a Morpheus poster, one of the twins, and like that cut their heads off, and you could only see their torso down to like their pelvic area of the outfits that they were wearing. And at the time, they were really exciting. Like, oh my God, look at this, a Neo poster, a Morpheus poster. But if you look at them now, they were big red flags. Because if you look at the fashion of the first movie, the things they're wearing in The Matrix are pretty grounded. If you look at Trinity, you look at Neo, like, their fashion is cool, but it's not really extravagant. And in The Matrix Reloaded, suddenly everyone's wearing like $1,000 designer coats and ties and all this stuff. And like they were marketing the fashion of The Matrix as its own thing, separate from the movie. And that was a big red flag. Like, I remember, like, in the first movie, yeah, like, they were wearing sunglasses some of the time. And then in the sequel, suddenly they're marketing like a Matrix line of sunglasses. Okay, yeah, I'm kind of getting off topic. I'm starting to talk about all kinds of things. Basically, I feel like the Matrix sequels were very style over substance. Like, they're the perfect example of that. And, oh, you know what? Okay. So talking about everyone in the Matrix appearing in the goth fashion style, it's a really bad idea. So if you had taken it where different crews of people kind of appear in their own ways because they're different personalities, that would have been much cooler and much more realistic. But if we go with the premise of the Matrix sequels, where every single person that appears in the Matrix appears with sunglasses and leather coats, aren't they making themselves a huge target for the agents? Because if everyone who comes from the outside world into the Matrix looks a certain way, well, then looking that way makes them big targets, big obvious targets for the agents. The agents would always be on the lookout for people in sunglasses and leather trench coats. It's kind of like in Star Wars, when in the first movies like Obi-Wan Kenobi was like hiding on another world, and he was wandering through the deserts in like a big robe, and that was just the way that he looked. They didn't actually say that the Jedi dressed that way. That was just the way that Obi-Wan Kenobi dressed while he was hiding out on a planet. But then the prequels established this thing where all Jedi dress in these robes. And that makes the original movie not make sense at all. Because if Obi-Wan Kenobi is trying to hide on another planet, then why would he dress like all Jedis dress in the robes? Wouldn't he dress differently so he doesn't attract attention? It's a very similar problem, where they take something that makes sense in the original movie, but then they turn that into some other aspect of the mythology that ends up contradicting what they originally established. Anyway, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Are you excited for the next Matrix movie? I am kind of excited. I'm going to go in with moderate expectations. I'm just hoping for a fun movie that has some good character stuff, and I'll be happy. Yeah, all right. Thanks.